Hi there, I'm Davey Cretin for Cretin Classics, and unfortunately, I just wanted to do a quick tribute video to the late Richard Tandy. Now, Richard was the keyboard player in ELO for many, many years. He started with them in the early 70s, and he was with them until they sort of uh, broke up in the mid 80s. Then he got back together and did work with Jeff Lynne, but I'll get to that later. So Richard Tandy was born March 26, 1948, and he passed away a few days ago, May 1st of 2024. He was born in Birmingham, England, and I hope I'm saying that properly, like the Brummies do. He was the keyboard player in ELO, and he played a wide array of instruments. With ELO, of the Electric Light Orchestra, of course, he played piano, mini moog, clavinet, mellotron, Oberheim, Wurlitzer electric piano, the Yamaha CS80, the ARP 2600, harmonium, the ARP Omni, Polymoog, Polymoog, I should say, Micromoog, and the ARP Quadra. And I think I've heard about just about of all those keyboards, maybe except the ARP Quadra, the last one. I don't know what that is. He was also proficient at guitar and bass guitar. In fact, when he first joined ELO, he was subbing for their bass guitar player who had a shoulder injury at the time. And then when that guy got better and came back, his name escapes me right now. I think his last name was Burton, but it's not part of the story really. Uh, Richard Tandy moved over to keyboards. So he was not on the first ELO album called No Answer, but the second album, Through Balance of Power in 1986, he was on every album. And there's only one ELO album besides the first one, No Answer, that he doesn't play on. So Richard, I always thought was an intricate part of the band because although Jeff Lynne wrote the songs, it's Richard Tandy's great keyboard work, and Lynne could play keyboards, but I don't think he's the player that Tandy was. So Tandy was a great instrumentalist, and I always loved the variety of his keyboards throughout the ELO catalog. He was Jeff Lynne's right hand man in the studio, and he also co arranged the strings with Jeff Lynne and Lewis Clark on many of the ELO albums. Tandy also helped Jeff Lynne out on the Electric Dream soundtrack, which is a really cute movie from 1984, if memory serves, starring Virginia Madsen as a cellist and the computer that falls in love with her. And it's a cute movie. It's better than it sounds. And Jeff Lynne did a lot of the music to that movie, and Richard Tandy helped him out. He also played on Jeff Lynne's solo album from, if memory serves, the late 80s, early 90s, called Armchair Theater. And he was also did the keyboard work on a record that Jeff Lynne produced for Dave Edmunds called Information in the 80s. There's a really good track, I think it's on that album, called Slipping Away. And it has that ELO feel and ELO vibe. So check that song out, Slipping Away. So Richard Tandy, he played on every ELO album except No Answer and 2015's Alone in the Universe, although by then it was billed as Jeff Lynne's ELO, Jeff Lynne's Electric Light Orchestra. Now, right before the band disbanded in 1986 after the Balance of Power album, Richard Tandy formed a band called the Tandy Morgan Band with Dave Morgan and Martin Smith, who had toured and played with ELO when they did live shows back in the late 70s, probably more the early 80s. And for some reason, probably because there was no internet back then in the mid 80s, I didn't even know about this album. I just found out about this album recently. And if I did know about it back then, I never saw it in a record store. I never bought it. I never heard it. So it's something that I have to listen to. 1985, the album they released was a concept album called Earthrise. So back then in the dark ages, you just couldn't go to your phone and type something in and find out about it like that. So that release somehow slipped past me. So I will definitely go out and try and listen to that and find it because I also found out that they reissued that and remastered it, and it was a double disc release in, I think, 2011. So that's something I definitely have to look for. Now, when I was a young boy, I was listening to AM radio with my mom. She was the big music person in my family. And through the AM radio stations, I knew ELO's hits, the catchy songs back then, Strange Magic, Evil Woman, songs like that. And in 1977, that's when I went out and I bought my first ELO record, which was the double album Out of the Blue. That was my first ELO album. Pardon me for a moment. So when I heard that album, actually, when I bought the vinyl and I opened it up with the gatefold, with the spaceship, and of course, Star Wars was all the rage back in 1977, and ELO with their spaceship logo design, and that album cover, and just opening it up to the inside of the spaceship's engines, maybe, was a beautiful gatefold. The colors, they just jumped out at you on the vinyl. And there were also a lot of inserts. There was a fold out poster of the band, including all the string players. And there was a spaceship that you could put together, but you'd pop out of the cardboard. There was a cardboard spaceship. There was an order form for merchandise. There were lyrics to all, but 16 songs, I think, on Out of the Blue. Yeah, 16 songs. So it was a beautiful package. And I just remember being so impressed with that as a young lad, as barely a teenager in 1977 when I bought the album. So, of course, when I heard songs on the radio, from the next album, 1979's Discovery, I went out and I bought that too. And I know a lot of people call it Disco Very Discovery because a couple of the songs had that disco beat, but every rock band was doing it at the time. Pink Floyd with Another Brick in the Wall in 1979, Styx with Why Me, Kiss, I Was Made for Loving You, Rod Stewart, Do You Think I'm Sexy? I'm not going to go on because everyone, almost every rock band in the late 70s did a disco song. So ELO sort of had their version with Last Train to London, I would say. Probably fits that mold the best on out of all the songs on Discovery. But I love Discovery. And my mother liked ELO. I remember when I would put on my record, because back then I would buy albums in the late 70s, she would dance around the house to certain songs. She loved Shine a Little Love, and she loved Last Train to London, and oh, the third song just flew right out of my head. Let me see what my notes say. Sorry about that. Oh, Confusion. That was the other one. She loved to dance around the house too. So I have great memories of the Discovery album. And I think I regard it very highly because I know a lot of ELO fans are a little on the fence about it. But I always loved the Discovery album. And then when the concept album Time came out in 1981, that's another excellent album. I know maybe the keyboard sounds might be a little dated sounding, but Richard Tandy's great work on that album. I think he's an excellent keyboard player. And I always thought he was underrated. And the fact that Richard Tandy's great and varied keyboard work and Jeff Lynne's songwriting, because I would call Electric Light Orchestra prog adjacent. They're not prog with a capital P, they're more progressive rock, prog rock with a small p. And I would say that the sound of ELO overall helped me get into more complicated music, more progressive rock music, and I love prog rock. So just wanted to say also, before I conclude, that Richard Tandy is a member of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. When ELO got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2017, Richard Tandy was nominated and inducted along with Jeff Lynne, and I'm guessing Bev Bevan too, because all three members were so intricate to the sound of the band over all those years. So, Richard Tandy, rest in peace, and my condolences to your family and your friends and all your fans around the world who are going to miss your great additions to the ELO catalog. You were a supreme keyboard player, and I appreciate all that you did in the service of rock and roll. So rest in peace, Richard Tandy. This is Davey Cretin for Cretin Classics. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.